goal is, I used to have it written on my website. I think I took it down. It's still stated in a couple different places. I want to be able to help 100,000 people kick sciatica out of their butt and start living normally again without the fear of it returning. Between my brick and mortar practice and going online, we are probably in the 7,000 to 8,000 range now. So I still got a long way to go, but as you know, online and doing things virtually, I've got so much more opportunity to help more people than if I was just in a location.
Sometimes the pain we feel is just the surface ripple of a deeper current. Dean Volk knows this firsthand. In 2018, his wife awoke with a sudden searing sciatica, pain she'd only ever heard him describe to others. And within hours, he was treating her, not with the usual stretches or generic therapy, but with a method that defied convention and revealed a hidden pattern. Pain often points away from its source. The moment set Dean on a path from clinic floors to virtual sessions, reaching thousands, uncovering the unseen links between movement, the nervous system, and the body's natural intelligence. Today, we'll follow that thread through personal trial, professional reinvention, and the surprising ways healing can begin where you least expect it.
It is my pleasure to welcome Dean Volk, a dedicated sciatica relief expert and founder of Sciatica Relief Now. Dean has helped thousands of clients find relief from sciatic nerve pain without the needs of medication, injections, surgeries. Innovative approach combines years of physical therapy, expertise, and passion for empowering individuals to reclaim their lives. Dean is also the author of the highly rated book, Sciatica Relief Now. I helped my wife overcome excruciating sciatica. And through his writing, social media platforms, and live sessions, he shared effective strategies for managing pain and improving mobility. Dean's personal story as a husband and father enhances his compassionate approach, making him a trusted guide for thousands seeking relief from chronic pain. And so today we explore his journey, his methods, and his mission to help others live a pain-free life. Dean, welcome to the DNA of Things.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and thank you for that. Wow, I've never heard myself explained like that before, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. I mean, it's been great getting to know you so far and doing some research on, all of the mission-driven work that you're focused on. I mean, I'm not sure that we'd have a listener listening who has not struggled with back pain. Actually, I myself am one of those folks that has that weird kind of spondylolisthesis.
Okay.
I mean, I can remember a time back when I was 12, because of my exposure to sport, that I was, basically very limited in movement for, a period of, 3 years during development from 12 and 15 because of that. And so it's no small deal once you've experienced that kind of pain. I mean, there is certainly a genetic component to this. Actually, it's rampant in my family. All my brothers have had issues. My brothers, one of them had fused vertebra. And, but of course, it's not all DNA. It's not all genetics. There's, thankfully, aspects of exposure that we can limit or increase depending on the effects. And then there are the habits that we can build to diminish that pain. And I suppose, that's what we're going to be speaking to today. And, before we drive into the, kind of the key deliverables here that are going to help people get out of pain, tell me, the story about your wife, because that's interesting. It definitely is a forcing mechanism and a focusing mechanism, isn't it?
It is. And what's wild is in 2018 is when I started a Facebook group, just on a whim. I never thought that being online or doing things virtually would be in my repertoire, but I started a Facebook group in March of 2018, and one morning in May of 2018, after listening to me talk and teach about sciatica over and over and talk to dozens of people online through strategy sessions, my wife woke up one night in May of 2018 and said, "Dean, it hurts from my butt to my heels." And being the good, loving husband, I started laughing. I go, "Yeah, right. You've never had this before. You've been listening to all the people telling me how their pain is, and I must not be giving you the attention that you deserve because now you're hurting." And she goes, "Well, I'm kind of serious." I said, "Really?" And she stood up and started walking like a 95-year-old lady. And I thought, oh my goodness, she's not kidding. She goes, "Dean, it's I'm dying from my butt all the way to my heel. I said, well, let me help you. She said, please don't touch me. Leave me alone, until mid-afternoon, when she realized it wasn't going away as fast as she had hoped it was, or as fast as she had hoped it would. And I started working with her, and within a week and a half, she started feeling significantly better. And within 2 weeks, she was back to walking 5 to 7 miles a day. And that was her first episode. And I realized that the treatment approach that I use, obviously, I've never seen anybody that fresh as a sciatica client before, because I don't sleep with anybody but my wife. And so I got it firsthand right away. And within 5, 6 hours of her waking up, we were able to start attacking it and decrease her symptoms significantly, very quickly.
You know, at the top of the call, we were having conversation. Well, you're in Scottsdale right now, and
Mhm.
I was telling you about this World Athletic Center now called Altus that trained out of, well, they used the Paradise Valley Community College, and they trained in partnership with Exos. And one of the things that really set them apart, insofar, well, there are many things, but one thing in particular was that they actually had trackside therapy, right? So they had massage therapists, they had chiropractors, osteos, they had, acupuncture, fascial release specialists. And it was like literally a kind of F1 race car pit stop style of mechanical therapy delivery, actually even before the injury, because a lot of the things that they would look at were the biomechanics, right? The biomechanics of efficiencies that were actually, by the way, very specific or individual to each athlete, right? And so you could see, training and athletics by itself, let's say an athlete's body type, provided training went well, is it's a manifestation of strategic compensation, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes, you get a little too wound up on one hip, or, your QL gets a little tight and you get hiked. And yeah, it's a very precarious system, to say the least.
Absolutely.
But it was amazing to see, therapists intervene, at the moment of injury, but most of the time before injury would even happen. And then even after the workouts, specific active recovery strategies were put in place. I mean, I think that's why I was so interested to speak to you, is because you're starting to see, through technology, the accessibility to therapists is becoming different. Whereas something that you described is what you might normally see is, well, a quote unquote clinical setting. It's like, trying to observe an animal in the zoo. It's not the same as in their natural environment. And so
Exactly.
here you are, the point of, let's call the trigger of the injury. You noticed a big difference. So then how does that change your clinical practice as a result?
Well, my clinical practice ended in 2020 when I sold my practices in Charlotte, North Carolina. And that was in the height of COVID. And it sort of was like a perfect fit for me, because in 2018, like I said, I started with a Facebook group, and I started my online contact with people at that time. And I had no idea that it was going to lead to a full-time, out of the clinic type of position. But we have over 20,000 people in my Facebook group now. I was doing free webinars at the time, and people just started coming saying, hey, everything I'm doing, my chiropractor, my PT, my yoga instructor, my Pilates, my acupuncturist, we're not getting the relief. What do you have that's different? And I was able to explain the different approach that I've been using over the past 15 to 16 years that intrigued them. And I started working with people online. Initially, it was all free, just because I didn't know what I was doing, actually. I was just trying to help as many people as I could. And then when I realized, wow, I'm doing this 40 hours a week, I can't continue to do this for free. I've got to make a living out of this. That's how everything started to grow and expand. And it was the unique approach that I've been using for the past 15 years in my clinics that is easily transferable into online courses and coaching online, whether in group or one-on-one settings, that has helped me start a business. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. We've got 2 coaches now. I've got 2 different advisors that actually talk to incoming leads that we have for people saying, hey, we need help. I send them to a couple of the advisors who talk them through, find out what's going on with them, and they instruct, or they basically tell people, hey, this is how Dean is different. This is why what he does works. If you've been using the generic exercise approach that most PTs and chiropractors and doctors give you, that's probably the reason that you're here, because those things don't work. You can't take a generic approach and help everybody when the problem can be so many different variables, so many different reasons. So that's how we've started what we're doing now.
Right. Well, I mean, so that is interesting, because you've got the kind of generic principles, if you will, that once you try to, apply them broadly, you're getting a mixed bag of results, which really shouldn't sound surprising. I mean, it's the same thing to do. It's the same thing is true for exercise. The same thing is true for, diet, nutrition. While heck, the same thing is certainly true for medications, right?
Absolutely.
Therapeutics. The human body is, for all its similarities, which, they're the majority, there are a number that, really beg for attention when it relates to this, call it human optimization. And I'm not sure that pain elimination is optimization. I mean, I would say that's kind of a necessity, but it does remind me, it does speak to the diversity of each of our, kind of preset musculoskeletal frames, but then how we've been, exposing that to different, stressors throughout the life. So how is it then? Let's jump into that. Let's jump into the stuff that people probably want to hear is,
Okay.
Well, what is the innovative approach? Like, what is it that that isn't being practiced at scale? And interested to know, like, how does that become something that is accessible to folks at scale?
Well, what I do, being a physical therapist and being trained by some great back physical therapists in my school, actually, some of my professors have written books, are known internationally for their work on lumbar spine and sciatica issues. In school, we basically got taught, you know what, if someone's got a tight hamstring because of the pain from sciatica, you got to stretch it out. You've got to take those tight muscles and pull on them and make them looser. And if you think about it, commonsensically wise, is if you have something that's tight and you pull it tighter, why would that loosen it? And my sort of secret sauce, if you will, is my big focus is I want to be able to look at the body as a whole, because obviously everything works in tandem with each other. I often use the example of somebody walking around on a badly sprained ankle. Why is their head, neck, and shoulders moving in such a herky-jerky fashion when the problem is all the way down in their ankle? And it's because our bodies naturally compensate when there's any type of pain, tightness, stiffness, soreness, discomfort, anything out of the ordinary. Your body naturally compensates for itself. You were talking about how people would have QL tightness or hip hiking or different things when they're performing activities. It's because whenever there's something out of the norm going on in the body's natural tendency, everybody's natural tendency is the body's going to compensate to protect itself, which means every part of your body is involved in protecting itself. Because I'll go back to the ankle sprain example. When somebody's got an ankle sprain, the muscles around the ankle are going to tighten down to try to help avoid any further damage to the ankle, which means those muscles are now not moving the ankle in a normal fashion, which means the whole bottom part of your leg is not moving and functioning normally. Plus you have the pain, so your body shifted to the other side. So now the opposite leg is taking more of the brunt. And when you walk, you're pretty much rhythmical when there's no pain in your body. Your left shoulder's moving with your right hip is moving, or your left hip is moving with your right shoulder. And because of the out of syncness of the bottom part of your body, your upper part of your body is trying to compensate. And compensation is amazing because our body's trying to, number one, protect itself from any further damage. But number two, it's hard for people to believe this, but it's actually minimizing the pain and the stress when you're trying to function. So what I do, and my focus now is not, hey, I don't want to do nerve glides. I don't want to pull on a nerve that's irritated. I look at the area of the problem similar to a wound. If you had an open wound on your arm, you're not going to dig on it. You're not going to stretch it. You're not going to move the muscles all around it, because that would just pull and irritate it further. So what I do is I look for, where are these imbalances in the body that are caused by your compensations? I balance out those imbalances, which takes tension off the area that's protecting itself. so that that area can actually calm down and heal. So I don't want to irritate what's already irritated further, which is what so many of the generic exercises that you find on Google and on YouTube do. I want to do the exact opposite. And I learned this through a gentleman who is now a good friend of mine. He was teaching a course called Total Motion Release. And when I took that course, it messed with my mind. And being from New York, I wasn't shy, and I would always raise my hand and interrupt him and ask why this goes against everything we learned. And he said, I know, let's just get through the course and then you can ask me your questions. Because he said, we won't have time to get through the course if you keep interrupting me. So I said, no problem. So that's how I came to this. And that's what I do that's different. I look at the body as a whole. I balance out the imbalances, which number one, calms down the central nervous system. It decreases that fight or flight and that tightness and the stress in your body, which gives pain relief right away. Maybe not immediate, but the area doesn't have to be as tight and as sore, so the body can actually allow itself to heal when you put it in the optimal position. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I guess where I'm interested to learn more is like how you're able to, well, I mean, I understand how technologically you can beam yourself into, people's homes, but generally speaking, the old way of doing things or the old paradigm is, well, I got to go into the clinic and I got to get them to kind of assess me in person. And then they got to put their hands on me and do these, fascial or musculature releases. And, I need it. The way of thinking was it needed to be hands on. So, I mean, I guess you're clearly seeing that it doesn't have to be. And I guess what I'm interested to know is how is that, generally received by, folks that you see?
Well, interestingly enough, I had a lady who was talking to me online today and she goes, well, where are your offices? Well, actually, I don't have any offices anymore. I used to have 3 offices and then I had a concierge practice in Charleston, South Carolina. And now I am 100% virtual. She goes, well, I need to go into a clinic. I said, I totally understand that. I said, I used to own 3 clinics of my own. And actually, my success rate with clients has improved since I've gone online. Sounds crazy, but before I took this course where I learned all these different techniques that I've honed in and started working primarily with sciatica clients over the past 15 years with, I was getting about a 20 to 25% success rate with the normal generic approach, which every physical therapist learns, which every back specialist teaches you, doing the bridges, doing the cat-camel exercises, doing the core strengthening, doing the piriformis stretches, the figure 4 stretch, the press-up exercises. Basically, type in generic exercises on Google and you will see all those exercises that I just said. Why would you want to go pay money to a therapist or pay money to anybody to go get those same exercises that you can just generically pull up online? The thing is, those did not work very well for me. And after coming back from this course and starting to change the way I do things, my sciatica success rate went from that 20 to 25 up to 70 to 75% overnight. It was unbelievable. I was floored. My jaw was on the floor most days when I started applying these principles because it goes so much against what I learned in school. So as I started tweaking and sort of treated every one of my clients as a guinea pig to this new method, I started realizing, hey, my sciatica clients were getting better faster. They were liking the exercises because they weren't painful. And they were liking the way we did things because they were seeing results so much quicker. It wasn't great for business because I wasn't seeing people anywhere from 10 to 16 visits. I was seeing them from 6 to 8 visits and they were gone. And I always wanted to warn them, hey, just because the pain is gone doesn't mean you're healed. Let's get you stabilized after we balance you so that you can hold those positions so you don't deal with this again. So for those people who are nervous about how can I do this virtually if I don't have my hands on you, I can tell you that since going online and starting my online course and coaching programs, my success rate is over 95%. And most of these clients are coming to me after failing anywhere from 3 to 5 other treatment approaches previously.
Interesting. Okay. Here's a question maybe I should have asked first is, how do you define sciatica?
It's Sciatica, great question. To me, sciatica is basically a generic term, meaning any irritation of your sciatic nerve. I know some people get diagnosed with sciatica, but sciatica is not the problem. Something is causing your sciatica.
Right.
So
Okay.
sciatica is basically any irritation of the sciatic nerve, which happens to be the thickest and longest nerve in the body that runs from your low back through your buttocks down to your toes. And it splits behind the knee into two different nerves. So you can have pain, tightness, tingling, numbness, heaviness, anywhere from your low back all the way down to your toes, anywhere in between. It can be in one area. It can be in multiple areas along that nerve pathway.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot if that's okay.
Put me on the spot.
All right. Because, so let's use me as a guinea pig. You mentioned using patients as a guinea pig.
Okay.
Good with that? Okay.
I'm perfect with that.
Okay. So I mentioned to you the history of like the spondylolisthesis,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was basically, I would say pain that was, let's say it felt like it was at the SI junction, and maybe sometimes up around L4. I would say at L4, but it would kind of move, and I could never put my finger on it. So that's a clue for you.
Gotcha.
And that the trigger for that was from my kind of life in martial arts, Taekwondo. Here's a weird detail: is I'm right-handed, but I'm left-footed, right?
Okay.
So definitely more, you call it dexterity with your feet, and definitely at higher ranges and out there. Plus, there's that anatomical phenomenon, right? The spondylolisthesis I mentioned. Okay, well that I don't want to say it magically went away. When I changed my martial arts focus from Taekwondo to boxing, and all of the, call it core stability, which I know is a misnomer also, but call it really, I would say the more posterior chain type of weight training that I did, like particularly deadlifts. But of course there was like a lot of, core training. There was a lot of like rotational activation in through the transverse core, the obliques, et cetera, pelvic floor, blanket statement, right? It went away, if you can believe it. So again, it was like the injury happened around, 12. It was like all I could do to manage it by the time between, let's say after 12 to 15, it was just always there. But then as I picked up boxing around 17, it was like gone, and I could sprint again. And I started sprinting again, and actually became a sprinter in college, et cetera. And that's a whole other story. But fast forward to the end, definitely overdid it. And I've had some injuries. So like labral tears. So I had a labral tear on both my right, my left hip, and the left hip has caused me more challenge. It feels like it was, let's say put back too tightly after the surgery. Right.
Okay.
So as a result of that, the pain that I feel does feel like it's in the sciatic nerve, but it's really, kind of right at this like intersection on the joint. So I'll just show you like kind of right here.
Okay.
Right. And when I, let's say internally rotate, it kind of impinges. And if I was to like do a straight leg lift like this, like that kind of activates the pain there. So, I would say in terms of how much pain I was in after I actually had another knee surgery recently, and so the inactivity and the VMO shutting down kind of exacerbated that whole thing.
Gotcha.
That was like 3 months ago. I would say since that time, if that was a 10 out of 10, I'm at about a 3 or 4 out of 10.
Okay.
But it's still there, right? So, I try the foam rolling or, doing all the things that you just talked about to no avail, right?
And I'm assuming you were doing all those things to that left side, the left hip, trying to calm that down and stretch it and dig on it.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
So you ready to try something?
Let's try it.
All right. So is this podcast visual too, or is it only going to be audio?
Yeah, it is visual. Yep.
Okay. So here's what I want you to do. Can you sit down for me?
Like on the ground?
No. Can you sit on a chair? Are you on a chair?
I'm sitting. Yeah.
Okay. So what I want you to do, I want you to take that left leg and I want you to lift it up as high, straighten out your knee and lift it up as high as you can. Oh, knee straight. There you go. Now, does that aggravate that spot in that cheek at all?
Yeah, right there.
Okay. On a 0 to 10 pain scale, how intense is that?
Again, I'd say it's like a 3, but it would have been a 10 2 weeks ago. And I'll tell you, it hurts when, let's say I'm engaging the like the TFL to hold it there.
Okay. So put that down for me because we want to avoid that. Do the same exact thing with your right leg. Straighten that out. And what I want you to do, I want you to take that leg and I want you to pull it up as high as you can, 25 times. I usually don't do 25 with people, but you are probably in better shape than most of my clients. So do that 25 times, get a good pull. And I'm assuming you're just feeling like a hamstring burn there.
Yeah, hamstring, a little TFL too. I should probably strengthen. I'm going to go sideways here.
Okay.
This is okay.
All right, you're going to do 25. You're going to take a break, and then you're going to do another set of 25. Same exact thing on that right side. Then when we're done, we're going to just test the left side once to see if it did anything for it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So what blew my mind with this technique, when I drove back to my clinics, I was thinking, how can I treat people 180 degrees opposite of what I've done? Because they would either think that I was mistreating them previously or I'm mistreating them now. So as I was driving back, I realized, hey, you know what? The first person who comes into my door as a new client, I'm only going to use this principle. And go ahead and retest that left side. Tell me how it feels now compared to what it did. Better, worse, or about the same?
I almost didn't even want to say it felt better because I felt like I would just put on one of those copper snake oil bracelets. But I will say it felt better. I mean, it's not, I would say it went from like a 3 to 4 to a 2 to 3.
Perfect. So by working the opposite side of your body, number one, you're stretching the same muscles on that right side that are aggravated on the left. Number two, your brain's getting the message, hey, this is safe. And so you know what's going on when that's sort of a comfortable, normal stretch. Your body is calming down a little bit so that when you go to stretch that left side, it's not as protective and not kicking in that pain as quickly and not allowing that to be as aggravated. So kind of wild how I can work that right leg and get your left leg and buttock feeling better, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and actually not too far out because I think about. I remember I had a hockey player that I worked with that needed to do. He had like a reconstructive knee surgery because he had like a severe car accident. And one of the things that we implemented into his training, because at a certain point, he got so frustrated that he couldn't use that side, just what it looked like. And we would do something where we would just like kind of put a mirror in the middle of his, so sitting on like the leg extension machine, for example, we put like a mirror in the middle and I get him to work the right side. And like, that was, it wasn't just that exercise, but it was that kind of thinking and that philosophy. And, he'd go into his, post-op PT and they'd be like, oh my God, what are you doing? This is kind of impossible in terms of the recovery, but you shouldn't be working this. And so, yeah, it really was that kind of crosstalk that they were seeing. So totally counterintuitive.
Yeah. One of the most remarkable things I ever saw, I had somebody who had a patellar tendon tear and he was seeing one of my therapists in my clinic and they were working and working and working. He got discharged. He came back 6 months later. He's a motorcycle dude, just a big, tough, rugged dude. And I said, man, how you doing? He goes, good. He goes, the only thing is my leg is still weak. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I can't stand up on my bad leg at all. He goes, I have to push with my good leg. I said, show me. So we put him on a chair that was a little bit higher than normal. He put his bad leg down on the ground, the one that had the patellar tendon repair. He tried to stand up. He couldn't get his butt up off the seat. And he was a hefty gentleman. And I said, all right, how about trying your good leg? He goes, oh, that's no problem. He popped up. I said, show me that 10 times. He popped up 10 times. I said, do another set of 10. He did another set of 10. I said, do you think you can try that on your bad side now? And he popped right up into the air and he looked at me and goes, how did you do that? And I said, when you work the opposite side of the body, I wish it was just that simple for everybody. But when you work the opposite side of the body, your brain gets the message that, hey, this is safe, this is okay. And so when you go to the injured side, your brain's getting the same message and the brain is kicking off the same amount of muscle spindles as it was on the good side. So you actually can increase strength by working. You can actually increase strength on your weak side, just like you showed by working your strong side.
Yeah. Well, and I suppose I guess why it's important to have like a clinician guiding you through this, because there's probably that muscle tension is, as you mentioned, it's a compensation and it's call it an evolutionary response to protect let's say the acute region. And so clearly after a traumatic event, you don't want to be like, okay, like I want the pain to go away now and let me implement this program. And this kind of comes back, I think, to your personal experience with your wife, for example. It's like, okay, well, how soon is too soon? And is it ever too late? I guess is the question.
My thing, number one, is definitely not too late, as I helped a gentleman. He was 83 years old, and he came to me saying he'd been dealing with this since he was 20. It was on and off. It wasn't like constant, but he said for the most part, the last 20 years have just been constant pain. He hasn't been able to get out of it. He wasn't having as much radiating pain because he did some decompression treatments. He goes, but it's still there and it's still annoying. And after being in my program for less than 2 weeks, he called me up and said, hey, well, the way he spoke was, hey, I got to tell you, I don't have any pain. He goes, I walked around my neighborhood for the first time in 20 years pain-free.
Right.
And so your body can always be retrained back to normal. And to me, even with acute problems like my wife, when you start balancing out your body responds naturally. And I think our bodies were created to heal themselves for the most part. And if you don't have a specific tear or something that actually needs a repair, if you go ahead and bulge a disc, even though I don't believe that a disc bulges in an instant, and I don't believe it herniates in an instant, you're looking at repetitive type of things that cause those issues. And a bulging disc for most people is normal after 35. But most people don't have pain with a bulging or a herniated disc. It's just when that starts irritating a nerve that it can trigger an inflammatory response, which, if it's not taken care of properly, can totally result in significant pain. But I would say 99% of the time, it can be treated without needing injections or surgery or something invasive.
Yeah. So, I mean, my sense is, just with a background in, fitness and athletics and working with a lot of people, in that space, and working with people who haven't dedicated, time and say money to the learnings there. There might be an expectation. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I did that exercise. Now it's all gone. And then the pain comes back. You're like, oh no, it's here again. And it's like, no, like there is a constant and never ending improvement component of this. But hey, the good news is that debilitating pain that you thought was permanent is impermanent. It is now intermittent, let's say. Will it ever be gone forever? I don't know. Maybe, but probably not. It's like, hey, if I do that one workout, or if I train for that one marathon, will I be fit for marathons forever? No, probably not. So there must be some kind of a, once you do the differential diagnosis and once you put together the plan, there must be some kind of like, ongoing component that becomes now a part of your physical operating system. And so have you found that to be true? And if so, are people compliant? Let's say in your remote practice versus your what's it called? Your bricks and mortar practice. And I will just make the comment too, like where it's funny, like at the top of this call, I was doing exactly all the things that, you were, criticizing the ignorant folks of doing. Here I am. I was doing the figure 4 cross and stretching my piriformis and got this little ball that I was like getting in and loosening things up. And I just kind of caught myself to like go back and do the thing that I just did before, which didn't really bring any relief. But what it did is like, confirmed, it's still there. It's still there. So, right. I mean, there is kind of a bit of a feed or an echo chamber that you got to get people out of. There's a huge behavioral component there. And so, and then I'm sure like once you're out of pain, you're probably thinking, oh, wow, like maybe there's other parts of my body, mind, spirit that I can be working on. So, I'm kind of setting up the bigger question here where it's like, okay, what's the long-term maintenance plan? But maybe better is like, hey, is resolving your sciatica the gateway drug to longevity, right? Or could it be the gateway drug to longevity?
It could be. Everything that we do is sort of holistic. Obviously, we're looking at the body holistically. So we teach breathing techniques. We talk about how to calm down some of that stress, because stress can be a trigger for a lot of people for pain because of the way your body responds.
Right.
But I tell people for long-term relief, the best thing you can do just naturally, physically speaking for your body is to always make sure that your body is balanced, right side versus left side, as much as possible. And once you're balanced, we sort of have three parts to our programs. First, we balance out the body. Then what we do is we stabilize you in that balanced position, so you're holding that normal, natural position for you. And it's a little different for everybody. Some people have more of a posterior tilt or an anterior tilt to their pelvis. It doesn't matter. That's the way you were built. We're going to work with what you have, and we're going to stabilize you in that position so that you can get back to doing whatever it is. And you mentioned marathons. I've had people who are now, after being told that they would never be able to run more than 5 miles or 5 kilometers. I forgot what, I think they were in Canada, so it was 5 kilometers. Now they are running marathons again because we got them balanced and then stable. I have a lady from New Zealand who was a professional rower who they said, you're probably never going to be able to row again because your piriformis is so tight. And I went, hey, you know what? Nothing's worked for you yet. Let's try something totally different. She said, great. And within a month, she felt significantly better and she was back to professional rowing. So if a professional rower and someone who runs marathons can overcome sciatica by balancing and stabilizing their body, most people are not that physically active or physically harmful to their body, so to speak, that I know that most people in most stages of their life can get past this if they maintain the stability in a balanced position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a ton of sense. Well, so, I mean, really cool, this conversation that we've been having here in terms of, how you've needed to grow personally, professionally, upgrade your paradigm in terms of what you paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn, by the way.
Yeah.
And then, well, gain the trust and credibility with clients by getting the testimonials. And so, we've walked through already like an actual practical use case, which, hey, that was a nice side benefit for me. I appreciate that. And
my pleasure.
So like that notion of, rebalance, stabilize, and integrate is, again, I don't think something that you're going to see when you just kind of Google search or even AI search, right? I mean, something to be said for the power of the question, right? It's like as more technologies become more capable in terms of delivering you results, it really is important to, well, I think engage with experts to form better questions. But, kind of, I guess where I'm leading myself is in this conversation is to the bigger picture. It's like, you said you started this just for fun. It's like, oh, wow, all of a sudden I have like 20,000 people and I've written a book, and you got some kind of like big overarching goal, like a million backs saved or something like that. What's your, you're clearly doing this now. So what's your milestone that you're aiming at? Your North Star?
My goal is, I used to have it written on my website. I think I took it down. It's still stated in a couple of different places. I want to be able to help 100,000 people kick sciatica out of their butt and start living normally again without the fear of it returning. So
Right.
I think between my brick and mortar practice and going online, we are probably in the 7,000 to 8,000 range now. So I still got a long way to go, but as you know, online and doing things virtually, I've got so much more opportunity to help more people than if I was just in a location.
Well,
So-
yeah, I mean, that's, you compare that to your previous operating system, right? Like you might see 8,000 people in a career if you're lucky.
Right.
And now you're saying you can do that in hundreds of thousands in years. And, the level of empowerment that you're delivering, it's in line with what, Dr. Kelly Stret taught me. He's an athletic therapist. He's like one of the first CrossFit gym owners, San Francisco CrossFit, becoming an doctor of athletic therapy. And he's like, gosh, I can't, for the sake of my career, own this thing that's injuring all these people and be a doctor of athletics therapy. And so he actually created this whole, see, at the time CrossFit had these like workouts of the day. And so he created the mobility workout of the day. And so he, basically like democratized, the accessibility to human anatomy and talked about this holistic approach. He's now got a full initiative that he runs with his wife called Ready State, certifies practitioners around this. So I think you might need to upgrade that 100,000 goal to a million goal before too long, because, there's certainly demand for it. And, if you can help somebody that's been, suffering for for 10 years or more, actually see meaningful in a meaningful effect within like 5 minutes of chatting, which, I did, and you're not paying me anything. It's like, okay, well, that's, maybe you got something there, right? I mean, that's, well, we certainly do. I didn't mention this at the top of the call, but I think I shared this with you before. One of the things that I do on the DNA things, I ask people, as I mentioned in the preamble, is like, what would you say to people if this was your last chance to speak on a podcast, right? And who would you want to hear it? And then the third question is who would you nominate to be on the DNA of things?
All right. Well, put a lot of thought into it because I was thinking, my mind when I read it, I'm like going, okay, sciatica, sciatica, sciatica. You know what? Sciatica is a big problem. But the one thing I would like people to know is, hey, you know what? There is a bigger purpose to your life than just who you are and where you are. And you were created for a reason. I totally believe that God created you for a purpose. So once you find your purpose, run with it. Seek God, however you need to seek him to find out what is that purpose in your life so that you can fulfill your destiny, because it's so much more fulfilling to do something when you feel empowered and it's bigger than just you. So hopefully that makes sense.
Amen.
Who would I like to hear that? Anybody who's listening. Obviously, I would like my wife and my 2 sons to hear that and know that I did the best that I could. I know I messed up. I'm human. I have failed, but just know that everything I've done has been to try to enrich our lives together in relationship as well as financially so that we can have the things that we would love. And then the nomination, I think I actually emailed it to you. There's a phenomenal therapist in California that I'm good friends with. She calls herself the tennis elbow queen because she is the tennis elbow queen. She's developed programs to help people suffering with tennis elbow, and it can cross over to golfer's elbow as well. So I would nominate her wholeheartedly without any reservation.
Amazing. Well, I mean, coming from somebody who, has clearly gone after his, purpose, I think those words won't fall flat on those who are listening. So Dean Volk, I want to thank you so much for, taking the time today, for sharing with this. Oh, one other question. Where can people find you?
I basically started a business called Sciatica Relief Now. You can find me online. My website is sciaticareliefnow.net. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook under Sciatica Relief Now. You can email me at info@sciaticareliefnow.net. Love to take your questions. Love to get you set up with one of my advisors to see if we can actually help you. And it's never too late to get started. And most of my clients, as I said earlier, have failed 3 to 5 other treatment approaches. They're typically at their wits' end and they're sick and tired of dealing with this. And so I'm going to tell you, if you have had the thought that, hey, if I just cut this leg off, everything would be fine, or have just exhausted everything and are thinking of doing surgery, please, please, please let surgery be your last resort. Not that some people don't benefit from it, but the statistics out there show that surgery and the right conservative therapy really don't have much of a different result, except the surgery may help in the short run, but the first surgery is usually just that, the first surgery. So if you can get to the right treatment approach, which I believe I have found because of the success rate that we've been having, it'd be great to be able to get a hold of you and to be able to help you through this process.
Awesome. Dean, thank you so much.
Jeremy, my pleasure. Thank you very much. And anything I could ever do for you, my friend, just let me know.
The threat is real and it runs through you. Dean's story reminds us that pain is often a messenger pulling on something deeper than the ache itself. In learning to trace it back, sometimes to the opposite side of the body, sometimes to the opposite side of what we expect, we glimpse the body's quiet genius. What if our next step isn't silence and discomfort, but to follow it, to see where it leads? The DNA of things exists for this pursuit, to understand, to activate, and to become. The question is, what thread might you pull on today?